August 15th, 2025, 1400 hours, Baltic Standard Time. The Baltic Sea churned under gray skies as two naval giants approached their fateful encounter. 20 nautical miles northeast of Kaliningrad, international waters witnessed the beginning of what would become known as the Baltic Flashpoint. Russian Admiral Gorshkov-class frigate, pennant number 434, cut through 3-foot swells at 18 knots. Her Parliament Redoubt air defense system hummed with electronic vigilance, scanning the horizon for threats. Captain First Rank Dmitry Volkov stood on the bridge, his weathered hands gripping the rail as Baltic wind whipped through the open wing. 47 years of naval service had taught him to read the sea's moods. But today, something felt different. The morning briefing had been tense. NATO exercises were concluding, but American warships lingered in Russian territorial approaches. 18 miles to the southwest, USS Ross, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, maintained course 090 at 22 knots. Commander Sarah Mitchell studied the tactical display, her coffee growing cold as she monitored the approaching Russian vessel. Ross's AN/SPY-1 Delta radar painted a clear picture of the frigate's movements, updating every 2.4 seconds. The destroyer's Aegis combat system processed threat assessments automatically, but human judgment would determine the next moves. Captain, Russian frigate bearing 045, range 18 miles, closing, reported Petty Officer Chen from the Combat Information Center. Mitchell nodded, her mind calculating intercept courses and engagement envelopes. 3 years commanding Ross had prepared her for moments like this, but the current political climate made every decision critical. At 1407 hours, Admiral Gorshkov's FERC-2 radar detected the American destroyer's electronic signature. Senior Lieutenant Pavel Kozlov, the frigate's weapons officer, felt his pulse quicken as he identified the contact. American destroyer, Arleigh Burke-class, designated Target Alpha, he announced, his voice steady despite the adrenaline surge. Captain Volkov stepped closer to the tactical display, studying the geometric relationship between the vessels. The rules of engagement were clear, but the gray areas between defensive posturing and aggressive action remained dangerously undefined. Ross's electronic warfare suite detected the Russian radar lock, triggering automatic defensive measures. Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison, Ross's tactical action officer, felt sweat form on his palms, despite the cool Baltic air conditioning. "Skipper, we're being painted by fire control radar," he reported, his training overriding the fear creeping into his thoughts. Commander Mitchell's jaw tightened as she absorbed the implications of the Russian targeting. This was no longer routine shadowing. Someone was preparing for combat. At 1412 hours, Admiral Gorshkov altered course to starboard, bringing her port-side Kalibr missile tubes into optimal firing position. The frigate's crew moved with practiced efficiency, but the underlying tension was palpable throughout the ship. Seaman First Class Alexei Petrov, manning the aft lookout post, watched the American destroyer's wake grow larger on the horizon. His father had served on Baltic Fleet submarines during the Cold War, sharing stories of dangerous encounters with NATO vessels. Today, those stories felt uncomfortably relevant as the two warships maneuvered for tactical advantage. USS Ross responded by adjusting her heading to 060, maintaining separation while keeping her forward VLS cells oriented toward the threat. The destroyer's crew reached Condition 2 readiness, with half the ship at battle stations. Engineman Second Class Rodriguez felt the ship's gas turbines increase power as Ross accelerated to 25 knots. Below decks, the rumble of machinery intensified, creating a steady vibration through the hull. Combat systems technicians monitored their displays with heightened focus, knowing that electronic warfare could precede kinetic action. Admiral Gorshkov's captain studied the American ship through powerful binoculars, noting her aggressive posture. The frigate's Panzer M close-in weapon system rotated toward the potential threat axis. 30mm cannons and surface-to-air missiles stood ready to defend against incoming projectiles. Captain Volkov had 47 years of experience, but the current political tensions made every decision potentially career-ending. One mistake could spark an international incident that might escalate beyond anyone's control. At 1418 hours, Both vessels were separated by only 12 nautical miles. Ross's standard missile engagement envelope overlapped with Admiral Gorshkov's Kalibr range. The mathematical reality of mutual destruction hung over both crews like a storm cloud. Commander Mitchell authorized the illumination of the Russian frigate with SPG-62 fire control radar. The electronic beam, invisible but unmistakable to enemy sensors, painted Admiral Gorshkov with targeting energy. On the Russian bridge, alarm tones indicated incoming radar lock. Senior Lieutenant Kozlov's hands moved instinctively to his weapons control panel. "American destroyer has achieved missile lock," he reported, his voice betraying slight tremor. Captain Volkov felt 23 years of post-Cold War naval cooperation evaporating in the Baltic mist. The political rhetoric of recent months had created this moment of technological brinksmanship. Admiral Gorshkov's crew reached combat readiness level 1. Damage control parties sealed watertight compartments, while fire control teams manned their stations. The frigate's sophisticated electronic countermeasures began generating false targets and jamming signals. USS Ross detected the jamming attempts and activated her own electronic warfare suite. The invisible battle of electrons and radio waves preceded any potential exchange of missiles. Lieutenant Commander Morrison coordinated the ship's defensive systems while maintaining offensive readiness. His tactical training emphasized the importance of first strike capability in modern naval combat. But launching first meant accepting responsibility for potentially starting World War III. At 14:23 hours, Admiral Gorshkov's captain made a calculated decision. He ordered the loading of Kalibr cruise missiles into launch position without opening the VLS cell covers. The mechanical sounds of missile preparation echoed through the frigate's superstructure. Weapons Technician Senior Chief Volkov, no relation to the captain, supervised the loading sequence. His hands shook slightly as he initiated the targeting sequence for the American destroyer. 28 years of naval service had never prepared him for this level of tension. The cruise missile's inertial navigation systems accepted coordinate data for USS Ross's projected position. Terminal guidance would rely on active radar homing during the final approach phase. Commander Mitchell observed the Russian frigate's subtle changes in electromagnetic signature. Ross's sensors detected increased power draw from Admiral Gorshkov's weapon systems. The American captain faced an impossible decision: strike first or wait for confirmation of hostile intent. Her crew looked to her for leadership, while politicians thousands of miles away remained unaware of the developing crisis. At 14:27 hours, a Russian K-27 helicopter appeared on both ships' radar screens. The helicopter approached from the northeast at 120 knots. Its dipping sonar and anti-ship missiles added another variable to the tactical equation. USS Ross's Phalanx close-in weapons system automatically tracked the approaching aircraft. The helicopter's pilot, Lieutenant Commander Sergei Orlov, maintained radio silence per his mission orders. His aircraft carried 2 KH-35U anti-ship missiles and advanced electronic reconnaissance equipment. The presence of airborne assets escalated the engagement beyond a simple ship-to-ship encounter. Admiral Gorshkov's helicopter coordinator tracked the aircraft's approach while monitoring American defensive reactions. Commander Mitchell authorized her air warfare coordinator to illuminate the helicopter with surface-to-air missile guidance radar. The electronic warning filled Lieutenant Commander Orlov's cockpit with urgent alarm tones. He had 10 seconds to decide whether to maintain course or take evasive action. Banking sharply to port, the helicopter began defensive maneuvering while maintaining surveillance capability. At 14:31 hours, Admiral Gorshkov opened her VLS cell covers. 8 Kalibr cruise missiles sat ready for launch, their targeting computers locked on USS Ross. The mechanical sound of opening launch tubes carried across the water. Captain Volkov knew this action would be interpreted as preparation for imminent attack. But his orders from Baltic Fleet Command had been explicit about demonstrating Russian resolve. USS Ross detected the VLS opening through visual observation and electromagnetic signature analysis. Commander Mitchell's training indicated she had perhaps 90 seconds before missiles could be launched. Her tactical action officer reported weapon system readiness while maintaining electronic countermeasures. The destroyer's crew prepared for incoming missile defense while keeping their own weapons ready. Lieutenant Commander Morrison calculated that Admiral Gorshkov's missiles would require approximately 4 minutes to reach Ross at maximum range. Standard missile interceptors could engage the incoming threats, but success wasn't guaranteed. The Russian frigate's advanced electronic warfare capabilities could potentially defeat American defensive systems. At 14:34 hours, Captain Volkov received an encrypted message from Baltic Fleet headquarters. The communication contained updated rules of engagement and authorization for defensive weapon use. Political tensions in Moscow had reached critical levels following recent NATO exercises. Admiral Gorshkov's crew maintained battle readiness while their captain processed new orders. The frigate's sophisticated communication systems enabled real-time coordination with Russian military command. But the tactical situation was evolving faster than political decision-making could accommodate. Commander Mitchell faced similar challenges as she maintained communication with EUCOM headquarters. The 6-hour time difference between the Baltic Sea and Washington meant senior officials were just beginning their day. Local tactical commanders bore responsibility for preventing international incidents while protecting national interests. USS Ross's crew understood that their actions could influence global diplomatic relationships. At 14:37 hours, both vessels were separated by only 8 nautical miles. Admiral Gorshkov's missiles required minimum range for optimal terminal guidance effectiveness. The Russian frigate maintained course and speed, while her weapon systems achieved full readiness. Captain Volkov studied his opponent through binoculars, noting the American ship's defensive posture. 23 years of professional interaction between Russian and American navies was ending. USS Ross's lookouts could clearly see the Russian frigate's open missile tubes and defensive weapon systems. The destroyer's crew felt the weight of historical responsibility as they maintained combat readiness. Commander Mitchell authorized the preparation of standard missile interceptors for immediate launch. Her weapons officer initiated targeting solutions for both the frigate and the circling helicopter. The tactical situation required simultaneous defense against cruise missiles and anti-ship helicopter attacks. At 14:40 hours, Admiral Gorshkov's radar operators detected American missile preparation. Senior Lieutenant Kozlov reported that USS Ross was preparing to launch defensive interceptors. The electronic signatures indicated imminent American weapon system activation. Captain Volkov realized that both commanders faced identical tactical dilemmas. Neither captain wanted to initiate hostilities, but neither could afford to be caught unprepared. The Russian helicopter continued circling at maximum sensor range while maintaining targeting data. Lieutenant Commander Orlov's aircraft provided real-time intelligence to Admiral Gorshkov's tactical center. His crew prepared anti-ship missiles while monitoring American defensive reactions. The helicopter's presence complicated both ships' tactical calculations by adding airborne threats. USS Ross's air defense systems tracked the helicopter while maintaining readiness against cruise missile attack. At 14:43 hours, a critical moment arrived as both weapon systems reached full readiness. Admiral Gorshkov's cruise missiles could launch within 15 seconds of firing authorization. USS Ross's defensive systems could engage incoming threats, but couldn't prevent initial launch. The mathematical reality of modern naval warfare meant both ships faced mutual destruction potential. Commander Mitchell's tactical display showed weapons engagement zones overlapping in deadly geometry. Captain Volkov faced identical calculations as his weapons officer reported complete system readiness. The Russian frigate's crew waited for launch orders while maintaining professional discipline. Decades of training had prepared them for this moment, but political implications remained unclear. The Baltic Sea witnessed 2 professional naval crews executing their duties while hoping for peaceful resolution. At 14:46 hours, an unexpected development changed the tactical equation. Neutral Swedish authorities contacted both American and Russian naval commands simultaneously. The intervention provided both captains with political cover for de-escalation without loss of face. Admiral Gorshkov received orders to maintain current readiness while avoiding provocative actions. USS Ross received similar guidance, emphasizing defensive posture and diplomatic communication. Both commanders understood that political authorities were now managing the crisis directly. The immediate tactical tension remained, but escalation responsibility shifted to higher command levels. Captain Volkov ordered the securing of weapon systems while maintaining defensive readiness. Commander Mitchell authorized similar measures, keeping interceptors ready but not targeted. At 14:51 hours, both vessels began gradual separation while maintaining surveillance. Admiral Gorshkov altered course to northeast at reduced speed. USS Ross maintained her original heading while decreasing combat readiness to Condition 3. The Russian helicopter returned to base after completing its surveillance mission. Lieutenant Commander Orlov's crew had gathered valuable intelligence about American defensive capabilities. The encounter provided both navies with updated threat assessments and tactical experience. Neither side claimed victory, but both demonstrated professional competence under extreme pressure. The Baltic Sea returned to its normal state of strategic tension with enhanced mutual awareness. Both crews would remember this day as the moment when Cold War rivalry briefly returned. Captain Volkov filed detailed reports about American tactical capabilities and electronic warfare effectiveness. Commander Mitchell provided similar intelligence assessments to NATO command structures. The incident would influence naval doctrine development and diplomatic protocols for years. At 1500 hours, both warships were beyond visual contact, but maintained electronic surveillance. The tactical engagement had lasted less than 1 hour, but demonstrated critical vulnerabilities. Modern naval warfare's speed and lethality meant future encounters might not allow time for political intervention. Admiral Gorshkov's crew secured from battle stations while discussing the morning's events. Seaman Petrov realized he had witnessed history in the making, though its significance remained unclear. USS Ross's sailors similarly processed the intensity of near-combat operations. The psychological impact of weapons lock and launch readiness would influence crew performance for months. Both naval commands initiated comprehensive reviews of rules of engagement and escalation procedures. The Baltic Sea incident highlighted the gap between political rhetoric and tactical reality. Professional naval officers had prevented international conflict through discipline and training, but the underlying tensions that created this confrontation remained unresolved. Future encounters might not benefit from Swedish diplomatic intervention or political restraint. The strategic implications extended beyond bilateral Russian-American relations to affect NATO unity. Baltic Sea states recognized their vulnerability to superpower naval competition in regional waters. Military analysts would study this incident for evidence of changing tactical doctrines and capabilities. The electronic warfare exchanges provided both sides with valuable intelligence about opponent systems. Neither navy had revealed their most advanced capabilities, maintaining strategic ambiguity. The Admiral Gorshkov incident became a classified case study in crisis management and naval diplomacy. Both crews returned to normal operations, carrying the weight of their close encounter with history. The Baltic Sea remained contested waters, where professional competence prevented political catastrophe.